Hello and welcome to Big Talk, where we take a look at big conversation. And tonight we'll be looking at the issues in the educational sector. And there are a whole lot of development. The recent policy trying to restrict children below the age of 18 and in a way of trying to gain the admissions into the universities has also sparked a whole lot of controversy as Nigerians continue to react to all of this concern as to what probably this may mean if the problem we're having in the country probably may also be the concern of the fact that we're having those who probably would have still be in secondary and now at the university. Some are saying it's not a priority to the national development. You've not done so well in the educational sector. It's a private sector that you probably are doing all of the jobs in the educational sector. What should be the part of government? Why are you coming in to look at reviewing the age limit for people to gain admission into university? It is also a concern. And even upon of graduation, are you creating jobs for the citizen? What are you doing and all of this? These are the questions many Nigerians are asking, and these have sparked a whole lot of concern. That's why we're trying to review and to understand better in perspective to the issue we're having in our country. Tonight, I'm being joined by a public affairs analyst and a social realist who probably will be joining us to give us some perspective to these issues confronting the country, Nigeria. Abdul Kadri Lickman is my guest tonight. Thanks so much for joining us on the program, comrade.
It's a pleasure, and thank you for having me tonight.
A whole lot of concern, and probably I may look at educational sector is broad. The sector is very broad, but the recent limitation that those who are not up to 18 should not have admission. And there are some reactions that has followed that comment by the minister, and some are saying it is not the right thing to do. Some are saying it is not the priority. Like in the terms of educational challenges we are confronting, that's not the issues of priorities right now. People are talking of good classroom. People are talking of making sure that teachers' welfares are being prioritized. People are asking that the educational sector, the syllables and the curriculums have to be changed to meet up the standard of the now. What's your concern about this recent move by the federal government?
Thank you very much. You see, by the provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it is a fundamental right for the government to provide basic and quality education to its citizens. Nigerian, as a subject of discussion, is not an exception for the citizen to have a basic quality education. One of the challenges that we have been faced as a nation in Nigeria is that governments always come with a policy which is not consistent. When government have a policy, let there be consistency in that policies. And secondly, another government will come after 4 years. There is this inconsistency in their policy. And secondly, there is misplacement of priority. It is a basic and primary responsibility of every government, every responsible government, to provide a basic education to its citizens. But in the case of Nigeria, the policies, which is one of the major concerns, let us have a draft policy that even if your administration has elapsed and the next administration is coming, that administration should also work with that policy document. This will serve as a guide for us instead of providing a policy that is not consistent. You see, saying that our children should not have a means to have a quality, higher education if they are not up to 18 years. I think for Minister of Education to make such statement of federal government restricting its citizens to have this level of education, to me, it is not fair, considering the world is transforming. We're in a technological world. This is not an analog world. This is a digital generation. Your children can learn even from home through their electronic means. So restricting the citizens that you must attain a certain age before you have this basic education, education, for me, I think it is not the best for us as Nigerians. We have been faced with different challenges, challenges of insecurity, challenge of hunger, challenge of a corruption in the land. These are the things that the government should look into, not considering to bring a policy that will not be sustainable for a nation, Nigeria.
Because a lot of concern we may also have is the fact that educational sector was to enhance self-development. It was to enhance where people can be creative enough upon graduation, they can be able to do or to tap into, entrepreneurship and see what they can do. We'll come to the aspect where government have not created enough environment for people and businesses to strive. But looking at the syllables we have, looking at the working conditions, the schooling environment that we have, you've gone through some primary schools in this region, and you understand the sad situation of how government schools are. It wasn't that way. It wasn't that really bad then. We can count some years back where government were really, really up to their feet and doing all of those things. Do you rather say that our education sector is at the worst stage right now? What is your assessment of educational sector in terms of facilities, the infrastructure that we have?
To me, when you look at our higher institution in Nigeria, if you had to make an in-depth analysis of what is happening, you will see that our leaders of today are those who benefit from free scholarship, free education yesterday. But today the leaders continue to come up with policies, as I said earlier, that there is no consistency in this policy. So part of this policy that government comes and create time upon time is part of what bring different issues, different concerns to us, and it continue to keep our education sector in stagnant. We need to have transformation in our educational sector in Nigeria. Go to our institution, the school that you graduated today, the classroom, the lecture hall where you receive your lecture. When you go there, you will not get it you will not find it in a good shape. Is either it has become in a dilapidated state or is still the way it is. As I said earlier, this is a digital and transformational generation. So we need to transform our educational sector. It is unfortunate that in Nigeria, in our higher institution, we are still where we are today. When you talk about FCT as a case study, what I think it is more functioning in FCT as the basic education, which include the primary and juniors and senior secondary education level. If you look at the FCT as a case study, which I think it should be a reason that other states of the federation should emulate from the FCT. When you look at our educational sector, there is Universal Basic Education Board, UBEB. I think the current leadership, under the leadership of His Excellency, the Honorable Minister of FCT, Nyesom Wike, is doing very well to transform the basic education sector in FCT. As I speak with you, there is what we call Smart School, which was introduced under the leadership of the current minister, Barrister Nyesom Wike, and under the leadership of the director, who is the chairman of the board, which is the chairman of the Universal Basic Education Board, Dr. Hassan Sule Walalo. He's trying to transform this educational sector. He comes up with an initiative of transforming this sector by introducing the smart school in FCT. So I think what the government needs to do, the FCT administration needs to do, and federal government, is to empower this particular sector to ensure that this policies, this initiative that was brought up should continue, not to introduce policy that would not be in a consistent with the people of FCT. And I'm urging other state government to also follow suit and emulate from the FCT administration.
Part of these issues, and I call a lot of concern, is the barrier. Understanding the 18 years barrier is not just about JAMB. Right now, the minister is also suggesting that it becomes a policy even to have access to West African examination. And part of the fear, we probably may understand the fear of the minister, but in the other way around, we're trying to fight brain drain. We are trying to discourage people from, jackpotting out of the country.
Yeah.
Do you feel it's in the right direction for the ministers to rather insist that they shouldn't have access to writing West African examination? Because some person will argue with you, how about a brilliant child who probably did so well and is not having any limitations and all of that. Yeah. Now that Nigeria is trying to set up a policy to be a guiding step for every child between 0 to 18 years, not to write WAEC, not to write JAMB, do you feel that it's not going to push a whole lot of people to start seeking for admissions in other countries, nearby countries and all of that?
You see, by the provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, every citizen of Nigeria has freedom and right to live. You cannot bring a policy that is not good for your citizens, a citizen of a nation, limiting our students to be above 18 years before having access to write WAEC, before having access to write JAM. I think this policy, it is not a good policy for a nation, Nigeria. We have children who are smart, who pick up in the early age. As I earlier said about the smart school that was introduced in FCT, it enabled children to have more access to electronic device where they can easily learn and understand things. So for federal government, for Minister of Education to come with that policy, I think for me it is not the right policy. And also there is a policy, or let me say a statement that was made by the Minister of Education, that those who acquire their higher education from the neighboring country like Benin Republic and Togo, that from 2017 downward, those results are not acceptable. For me, I think that will also raise a concern, because you will see that there are people who are being recruited into the military institution in Nigeria today, and those people graduated from this neighboring country, and they are employed into the service of our security, respective security agents in Nigeria. And when you said this, their result will not longer serve, it means you are creating unemployment. You are also creating insecurity, because those persons have enough training of those respective security agencies. They understand the modus operandi of the operation of the work. Now you are disengaging them from the service. I think if government is creating a law or a policy, that policy should work in prospective, not in retrospective. So for me, limiting our students that they must be above 18 years before having access to write WAEC and JAM, to me, that policy is not fair. That policy cannot stand. Another government will come and change that policy. So for me, I advise the minister and the federal government of Nigeria to do away with that policy. Bring a policy that will address issues regarding our education sector.
And because we're probably trying to see what may be the reason why government are taking this move. Some probably may come up from the picture of the fact that our university sometimes, I mean, the number of students we are having in the classroom is more than the infrastructure that we have. We see where people having to, I mean, good number of students trying to struggle for laboratory practicals and all of that. The classroom, the chairs are not sufficient enough to carry them. Is it the failure of government in fixing the infrastructure we have in the universities? And rather, where the government are now coming to the fact that they're trying to discourage and reduce a good number of people from participating in WAEC and JAM, which is the only entry rooms for university admission. Is it their own failure that are not trying to judge students below 18 years?
As I rightly said earlier, it is the responsibility of government to provide basic and quality education. Limiting people from what they will achieve, neither what to attain, it is not fair. It is a violation of the provision of the Constitution. Government need to be projected by providing infrastructural development in those respective institutions where it will accommodate more number of its citizens. In a developing nation, the government project and put some infrastructure projects in some places even where people are not yet settling. Government used to think ahead to make this infrastructure available to accommodate the teeming population of its citizens. For federal government of Nigeria not to fix those infrastructure in our respective institutions, I think it is a failure in part of the government. So we are calling the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to look inward and address this concern.
All right, we'll try as much as possible to complete that conversation and looking at what may be the ending ways in trying to manage some of these issues and challenges we have. But let's just quickly go on a break, and once we return from the break, we'll look at as much as possible to understand the in-depth concern about this policy and understanding the issues better. Please stay with us on the program. I'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with us on Big Talk, where we're looking at understanding the crisis that this policy of reviewing and revisiting issues of 18 years limitation, placing 18 years limitation on the entries into the university. These have been highly criticized by Nigerians. So we're trying to make sense from what the ministers and from what government probably may suggest. We're having a whole lot of pressing issues of welfareism. Our teachers, some said, reward of the teachers will be in heaven. Probably the Muslim may have also their belief and all of that. Rather, some people said, let the teachers also have their reward here on earth, while they are alive, while they are working. So some of these teachers have clamored over time that, their welfareism has not been prioritized by government. We've seen where government recently, in terms of workers, has to revisit the minimum wage. Some people are saying the minimum wage is not enough. We're talking of people who can't really have good housing. We're talking of teachers who are probably not well taken care of, like what we may probably have. Do you feel that our teachers are not well happy? And if they are not happy, do you feel that government has to urgently revisit some of the wages they have, understanding that our economy is in the dying situation? How do you advise government? Because we've seen ASU on the other hand threatening strike. We've seen unions on different hands trying to make strike and all of that out of the concerns and the negotiation that they have from government. Where do you think that government should begin first?
I think for me, the federal government of Nigeria should prioritize education sector. Education should be an utmost priority for the federal government of Nigeria. If people are educated, they will become well informed. And the moment they are well informed, you are giving them a weapon to fight their enemy. You are giving them a means to have a source of living, a means of good livelihood. For me, our respective teachers in our primary, secondary, and even in the tertiary institution need a basic and sustainable means of earning. Their wages and salary need to be reviewed, need to have an upward review to enable these teachers enjoying the service, the sacrifices that they're rendering for every nation. For every citizen of Nigeria who is educated has passed through classroom learning. So those who empowered us with this learning, with this knowledge, they need to be well respected, they need to be well appreciated. Teachers' reward is not only in heaven. Teachers' reward must also be seen on earth, and let the teachers also benefit the sacrifices that have been made so far. A case study of FCT. I'm not saying that the minister is doing 100%, but at least his performance when it comes to educational sector, I think he's 95 to 99 percentage. Because
how do you come up with that statistics and from what basis?
Yes, my basis are, as I rightly said earlier, it talks about the Universal Basic Education Board, which control the primary school and also the junior secondary schools in FCT. Hardly for you to see a teacher, a primary school teacher, complaining about the current situation, except rather he may agitate or request for more, because to whom much is given, much is expected. They expect that government should do more for them as they do more to engage our pupils and students in the classroom. So for FCT teachers have a good living condition. I'm not saying 100%, but at least if other states of the federations
because I'm gonna carry out a research on that to confirm
yes,
that
FCT teachers will not complain. Apart from their basic salaries and wages, I am quite assuring you that FCT teachers also benefit some allowances by the FCT administration, which also include housing, which also include 40%. There is allowance, I have forgotten the name, that is also given to FCT teachers. So FCT teachers will be an exception of those who will complain about the teaching standard of teachers in Nigeria. We are urging the other state of federation to also follow suit. We know FCT as a center of government will also be the top priority of government and will also be prioritized.
Because concern has always been how government can also pay. Some said even the 70,000 minimum wage, some state governors are saying, we can't afford to pay, we do not have enough. You can't compare us to FCT, you cannot compare us to Lagos. Is that the situation?
For me, for a state government to say he cannot pay that amount of 40,000 naira, I think it's not been fair to himself, it's not been fair to teachers. These are people who empowered us, who teach us, who guide us. For you to say you cannot afford to give a teacher a 70,000 naira as a living salary, I think you are not fair to the citizens of that nature. Every state of the federation can afford to pay even beyond 70,000 naira.
All right, concern and the fact that we are having some of those concern that workers are paramount. Governments are the one managing the resources. Away from the fact that we've been putting a whole lot of hopes on government, we've also seen where the fact that some graduates we are having from the universities are finding it very hard to survive. And this has also been a concern. Every year we are having statistics of people migrating, graduating from the universities, graduating from secondary to another level and all of that. They told them, go to school and upon graduation, things gonna work. We've seen in the time, I think in the 70s, where people in the 70s will tell you that upon graduation, you quickly get a job and all of that. That has been the practice before then. Now looking at the present situation, do you feel that the government, in terms of creating a robust environment to engage people, young people, many graduates, do you feel that they have failed on their part, or do you feel that young people are just entirely lazy? Because you've seen where the president of this country said Nigerian youth are lazy. Is that the situation?
For me, Nigerian youths are not lazy. Nigerian youth need to be empowered. The more the youth are empowered, they will not become lazy, they will not become idle. It is the duty of the government to keep its citizens engaged, to have a very good environment, an environment where people will become acclimatized, a smooth environment where people can go on with their businesses. There is no government in the world that can provide job to all its citizens. But it is important for government to provide enabling environment where people can also go into private sector, where people can actually add a meaningful value to the development of that nation. But there is no government that can totally provide a job to its citizen. But providing enabling environment, people will be able to work. The youth will not longer sit idle. But due to the current economic and also the security threat, the security situation in Nigeria, there is insecurity in the land. Those who are farming find it difficult to go to farm and do the job. Some of the youth are farmers. Different youths have different engagement. But the insecurity and the economic hardship is hitting every one of us. It's hitting every Nigerian. And the government cannot do it alone. What government needs to do firstly is to fix the security concern, the insecurity concern. Fixing the insecurity
You feel that
concern.
the president is not doing enough in terms of that?
For me, I will not say president is not doing enough, but he needs to do more. More need to be done in terms of security. We can see our respective security chiefs are doing up and down, but we're saying they need to do more. They understand it. They are more professional in this field. They need to brief Mr. President, guide Mr. President on relevant policies to take about security. They have been trained. They are professionals. So they need to do more in that field to ensure that Nigerian insecurity has come to the barest minimum.
Two very strong policy meeting a whole lot of criticism. The issues of the fact that the Minister of Health said we're having more doctors leaving, so we're trying to also create a policy that may stop some doctors from leaving. A whole lot of concern about that policy, a concern, and the also policy of education. And do you feel that the ministers are not probably making a proper report to the president, or the president does not understand what is on ground and the reality on ground? That the reality on ground is that why people are living, there are reasons why people are living in the country.
Yeah.
There are reasons why people probably have to jump from primary 2 to primary 5 to get to a secondary school and all of that. There are reasons behind some of these actions. Can we justify some of the reasons why people are leaving the country, some of the reasons why people have to, at the age of 15, they're already in the university in a rush and all of that, compared to what the ministers are moving ahead of?
Okay. You see, one of the reasons, let me take the first question. One of the reasons why people are moving out of the country, for instance, I am a public servant. From where I work, you will see maybe there are some numbers of people that are interested to, maybe some have left, and some are also looking for their own way to live because the economy is not longer viable. There is economic hardship. So for government to stop people from moving from Nigeria and traveling abroad, firstly, you must address the relevant concern, which include the hardship in the country, also the insecurity, which is one of the major concerns. People's job is not longer secure. There is no job security. There is also insecurity in the land. Providing enabling environment for people. In the last 15 years, hardly heard about Nigerian traveling abroad, leaving their job doing this. But our economy continue to get worsened day after day. Government must fix economic sector. Government will also fix the issue of insecurity. If these two concerns are addressed, this will limit people from traveling out. And for some of our medical practitioners who are trying to move, everybody needs something better. Everybody wants to achieve better. The president was a former governor of Lagos State. After being a governor, he strived to move forward to become the president of Federation. Therefore, myself and you also, we have our vision, mission, and ambition. Every responsible individual is a man of ambition. People have the ambition to achieve more. So if president or the federal government wants to limit people from traveling out of Nigeria, they should create a good policy that will make the people stay. Increase the wage of living, review the medical's personnel's salaries and wages, review the education sectors, the teachers and the lecturers, review their salaries and wages. This will encourage people because it is the primary responsibility of government to ensure that things are going well. The essence of government is to ensure righteousness. So the federal government must ensure righteousness in all sectors. And therefore, Nigeria will stay. This is our country. We have no any better place than Nigeria. Wherever you go, you always think about Nigeria.
Nigeria is faced with a whole lot of problems, concern, ranging from all sectors, from the health, education that we're discussing right now. Every sector, we are confronted with a whole lot of challenge. Do you feel that education, education can properly solve the problems of this country? Or do you also subscribe to those who think that Nigeria's problem is political? Some will say it's spiritual and all of that. Do you feel that education will solve the problem? Or do you feel that the problem of the country is political?
I never believe that a problem of a Nigerian is spiritual. If it is spiritual, then we also need a spiritual solution. If our problem is political, we also need a political solution. If our problem is otherwise, we'll study the situation, do our in-depth analysis, what are the problems, then we'll provide a better solution to this problem. Let me take an instance. One of the major concerns I understand about Nigeria, let me talk about the security institutions. Nigerians are not being proactive in terms of ensuring safety of lives and property. You will see a community where the security apparatus are not properly being put in place. The moment we have an insecurity, that is when you will see our respective personnel trying to swing into action. And being reaction when the action has already occurred will not give you a better solution. It is very important for our respective security agencies to be proactive. We are not saying they are not doing anything at all, but they need to do more. They need to be proactive. They need to be futuristic. They need to be projected. You project what may happen. You have a temporary solution to that problem. Before it happens, you make that temporary solution permanently. So Nigerian problem is not spiritual. Nigerian problem, I will say rather, is political because of our inconsistency in policies.
There's been a very perennial conflict between ASU, that is the Academic Staff Union of Universities, SANUS, and all of these, disrupting the academic exercise. Some, they will hit on the street from the protest, some will ask for strike and all of that. And do you feel that it's high time government urgently address the concerns? We've seen 2012 demands, we've seen many demands. You are at public service, you understand better issues of what they are demanding for. Do you feel that it's high time government urgently fix it? Because some persons are saying that concern the fact that the strike is distorting the academic exercise in the schools.
Yes, for me, I think it will be of a primary concern for the federal government of Nigeria to address issue of strike in Nigeria. I think in the West African country, Nigeria is a country that always go on strike. So government need to stand firmly to address the concerns of our respective lecturers in our respective institutions. Sit with these people, understand their problem, and provide a lasting solution to this problem. We did not expect that the Academic Staff Union of University will still embark on a strike in this current administration. We experienced it earlier. The president should be proactive in addressing this concern rather than to allow them to still go on strike. When they continue to go on strike, it means that the Minister of Education is not doing well, is not briefing the president, is not informing the president about relevant concern, because it is his duty. The president cannot be in everywhere. That is where he appoints ministers that will represent him in respective ministries, and also in respective from respective state of the federation. So the Minister of Education have more to do by briefing the federal government on the current state of affairs, not to allow the academic staff of university to embark on strike.
The former president had introduced school feeding program just to be able to encourage some, primary level and the local level to help children, people's return to school, because the statistics of out-of-school children will really marvel in the country as we speak today. A lot of them cannot go to school. Some will tell you insecurity. Some will tell you, I don't have what to eat. There is no food at home and all of that. And that was why the president had the intention of introducing a school feeding program to address these issues. But unfortunately, I don't know what we can hear and boast of that particular program of the government. Do you feel that politicians have jeopardized the intentions of the president, or there is a failure of this government to inherit and continue in such implementation? Because it was a fantastic policy and program if it was fully implemented.
Thank you very much. That is why I said Nigerian, we have inconsistency in our policies. For me, in the first instance, I would say that program is a misplacement of priority. What federal government need to do is to make education a compulsory from the basic level to higher institution, if the federal government can afford. If they can afford to make education free and compulsory from the basic to higher institution, they should make it compulsory from the basic up to secondary school level. When you make education mandatory, compulsory, and free, every citizen must ensure that he has this basic and quality education. It is the responsibility of every parent, every household, to provide food and shelter to their own children. So waiting for government to provide food for you, government, as I said earlier, cannot do it all alone. Both government, private sectors, well-meaning citizens, individual parents must also play their own role to ensure a sustainable economy. So waiting for government to introduce full feeding program to feed our children, I think, to me, is a misplacement of priority. That program has not taken a test of time. It is not fair, and it is not even palatable for a nation as Nigerian to introduce such kind of program. What we need is to have a program, a law, let it be an established law, that education must be affordable, must be free, must be accessible, and must be compulsory. Issue of Boko Haram in the north, issue of banditry that is happening in the north, if those people are well informed, they will not go and involve themselves in this kind of thing. No man will keep himself hungry for good 3 days. The first day he may be patient. The second day he will go to streets and beg to get something to eat. But if you ask him of education, you think that he needs money to go to school, to register himself, and all of that. So what government need to do is to ensure there is free, quality, and compulsory education. Let it be an established law in the Constitution of the Federation. I think this will address many of the concerns, many of the issues raised.
And very lastly, before we begin to wrap up on the program, because we've seen where people were really hitting up in the street to protest, some person said they were not in the classroom. And you've also raised the concern of making education a bit compulsory. And I mean, even when it looks like it's going to be more tasky for the government to really handle. This president had promised a whole lot. And some of these issues might be the fact that we just wanted a country that begins to walk away from what we've had. Agitations, and now the students are being confronted with these a challenge. The dropout, the statistics of people dropping out from school due to the hardship. If you ask everybody, the parent will tell you hardship, the student will tell you hardship, a whole lot will tell you some of these crimes. And when you will answer that very sadly, and then the issues of curriculum, I wanted to put the two of them in answering them. Some said our curriculum are not meeting with the 21st century standard, where it's not encouraging digitalization. It's not giving room for people to understand the now. The problem of the country needs more, where we can now move from where we are, the analog practices, to the digital practice. Do you feel that Nigeria is ready for that? The investment so far in education, do you feel it's enough for that takeover for where our syllables, our curriculum in the secondary and the university will begin to appreciate what is really trending in the world today?
Okay. You see, our curriculums and our syllables need to be revisited and reviewed.
So it's completely in the shambles right now.
My reasons are, you will see somebody, let me take an instance in institution, or maybe from our primary school level. Somebody will have to undergo maybe 6 to 7 different subjects. Maybe that person wants to study medical science in the future. But in the primary school, as that person is coming up, he has to undergo different subjects. In secondary school, again, instead of building from what you have earlier learned in the primary school, in the secondary school, you made something different from what you studied earlier from the primary school. When you come to university, instead of building on what you have learned in the secondary school, you also see something different from the secondary school syllabus. So I think Nigerian, we need to review what you are currently studying in the primary school. What you are studying in the primary school should align with what you are studying in the secondary school, and what you are currently studying in the secondary school should also align with what you are studying in the university. Somebody wants to study a particular course in the university, maybe accountancy, and you are teaching him something that has not relevant with accountancy. You are teaching him something of agriculture as maybe a borrow course. We need to actually understand what we want to achieve. This is a digital world, not analog. If somebody wants to be a medical practitioner, guide him, teaching him that line from the primary, secondary, up to university level. So our curriculums and syllables need to be merged together, need to be reviewed, and also need to be looked into, and those issues will be addressed instead of government to continue to provide different policies, inconsistency policy. One of the major concerns that is getting us backward in our education sector is inconsistency in our policies. Let us look at the policy that will serve us from now to 20 years. After 20 years, we'll now review the policy, look at the achievements and the challenges. If the policy is being fair to us, let us go by the policy. But it is unfortunate that we create law in Nigeria that the law does not suit or tally our current situation. If you want to create law in a community or in a developing society, look at the nature of the people, establish a law that will not deprive some persons from having access to what they actually need. For instance, issue of 18 years citizens should not have access to WAEC and JAM. You are disenfranchising that child from having such education. That policy, it is not fair. It will be an inconsistent policy. So I ask the federal government to do away with that policy. So let us actually know what we want to achieve. We design a policy, how we can achieve it in the next 20 years. If that policy is very sustainable for us, we maintain it. If it is not, we do away.
So you don't want a long-term a long-term plan. They should rather have short-term plan they can deal with.
They should have a short plan that will take us maybe 10 years or 20 years. After 10 years, you review it. After 20 years, you review. Look at the achievement and the challenges. If they are okay for us as a nation, let's continue to adopt it. If it is not okay, do it away. You can't force people to do what it is not suitable. Maybe that thing is by religion, both Islam, Christian or otherwise, did not contradict our religion, and you are introducing something to people, something that is not part of their culture, something that is not part of it. You can't govern people by force. Look at public interest, look at public concern, address what the public wants. You are not serving yourself.
So you feel some of the policies are not popular enough, people are not accepting
some of the policy people are not accepting it because it is not popular. It has no impact on ordinary Nigerians. Create a policy that will have impact on ordinary Nigerians. People will welcome that policy. People will make use of the policy, and it will become part of them. But you can't create a law when people did not have a very robust and sustainable economy. You can't force people to just start implementing what they are not used to. If you want to create a law, look at the environment, make sure that people are living. For instance, sorry to say, we heard about the increase in the PMS price today. Look at the current situation, the current economic situation in Nigeria. Issue of increasing the PMS should not come in this critical moment. So federal government need to do more to address this concern.
Does it look like the president, some of the feedback Mr. President is getting is not authentic
The
enough?
president is not the president is not properly informed. The president needs to be properly informed. That is why sometimes youth have to go to the street and protest, and they are protesting on reality, the things on ground. The president is not only serving himself. The president is serving over 200 million Nigerians. Let the ordinary person in the street feel the impact of the governance. The president has promised us a renewed hope agenda. Let the agenda impact on the ordinary man in the street. If his renewed hope agenda is not impacting on ordinary citizens on the street, that means the renewed hope has not been renewed. The hope needs to be renewed. It needs to be seen. It needs to be felt, even by ordinary Nigerians.
Because sometimes government may see that there are people that are really against the government. We've seen how some person who were protesting, have been accused of trying to overthrow the government.
Let me tell you, you can make
that
even if all Nigerians would not support the president, for instance, all Nigerians cannot be the lover of president, cannot love him all. But if you want people to love you, you have the means, you have the power, you have the control over the resources. Create policies and programs that will impact the life of ordinary Nigerian. Some persons may not need to meet you before start loving you. Those programs and policies, your name will continue to ring on ear of every Nigerian. Create policy that will impact the ordinary person in the community. You makes people to love you, and you makes people to hate you. If I want people to love me, if I want children to love me, I'll give them ice cream. Children loves ice cream. I'll give them balloon. They did not know me, but they will start to, this is the person that give us ice cream. This is the person that give us balloon. I become someone who these children will so much cherish. If you want these children to hate you, when children gathering, playing, come in an instant, live here, start pushing the children to go away from that thing that is giving them pleasure at that moment. Those children will hate you forever. So the president has the power and the resources to make Nigerians understand him, to make Nigerians have confidence in his renewed hope agenda. The ball is in his court. Let him use his wisdom, and I believe he's a man of wisdom. Let him use his wisdom to play the ball accordingly, to do the tactics that football player, that Real Madrid do a teamwork to score a goal. Let the president do a teamwork to make sure that the renewed hope agenda has been achieved.
He told us I'll hit the ground running from day one, and that was the words of the president. So it was looking that many Nigerians were happy, probably, that one who had done so tremendously well in Lagos, when you look at the internal generated revenue of Lagos as at the time he met and after he had left, and now in Lagos. So they were using Lagos as a yardstick for him to be able to do. Education in Lagos, probably, some people will say it's better and all of that. The concern of even the primary education and all of that. So people were expecting that some of these templates that the president will already have to implement. Do you feel that is the people that he hired to do the job? Very quickly before we wrap up the program, do you feel that is the people that he hired to do the job? Or as a president, he's not really in charge enough to fixing the issues? He told Nigerians, I will deal with it.
You see, the president has a trumpet in his mouth. So he has the responsibility and also the power to use his voice, to use his mouth to blow his trumpet for all Nigerians to hear his call. You will recall that during his inauguration, during his sworn-in as the president of the nation, he made a statement that fuel subsidy administration has gone. And that single statement make other Nigerians, some persons, to have concern. Why is the president removing fuel subsidy? As fuel subsidy has been removed from that very day up to this moment, Nigerians are expecting to see the impact of that fuel subsidy removal. But unfortunately, we are not saying that the president is not doing anything at all, but he needs to do more. As I said earlier, you use your mouth to blow your trumpet. The president needs to review and reshape his cabinet. Look this cabinet that he appointed and position them appropriately and accordingly where they can add meaningful value. There are some ministers, I don't want to mention name, that they are not doing anything at all since their inception, since their resumption to that office. So the president needs to look into and reshuffle those ministers. Even furthermore, change those who are not capable to handle
their respective ministry. We have other capable Nigerians who can handle this ministry more than what these current ministers are doing. They need to assist the president in discharging some of his duty. The president cannot be in every ministry. He cannot be everywhere in the state. Those ministers come from respective states of the federation, and they also saddle responsibility of managing their respective ministry. So I am calling on the federal government of Nigeria, under the leadership of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu GCFR, to review and reshuffle his cabinet.
A lot of concern. Very big thanks to Lukman, the public affairs analyst and social critics. Thanks so much for joining us on the program tonight.
It's a pleasure.
And of course, there are a lot of concern as to how the government can continue to engage the citizenry in addressing some of the economic problems we are having. Right now, in the educational sector, government tried to take steps, but the steps have been highly criticized by many Nigerians who feel that the policy, again, is not popular. Rather, they should start looking for a way of addressing the challenges in the sector, fixing the infrastructure in the schools, and making sure that the students and the children are not hungry. The issues and concern about if 18 years can get into university, Nigerians are saying, no, that's not the negotiation we want now. We want where you are beginning to put things in place that can take this country from where we are today to another level. And the ball again is still in the court of the president to fixing this issue. He promised for the job, he asked for the job, and Nigerians gave him the job. So they want him to be able to fix all of these challenges. And that the concern in the educational sector, very briefly that we had touched on. Other issues are there in the educational sector, but the need for government to begin to listen to what the people are saying. That's the size of a discussion tonight on Big Talk. Thanks so much for joining us and tuning in. My name is Edika Michael, and God bless Nigeria.